I bet we'd all like to stand, actually, at this point.
Hello, test. Yeah, okay. Thank you. We're we're trying to recover here. This is if you look at your schedule, just pretend it's 10:20 a.m. But we're going to give her the full 20 minutes for the talk. So our next speaker before we take a break is Christine D. of IBM. She is a technologist and research psychologist with more than 25 years of experience in the telecom industry. In this work, she's led several first-of-the-kind data initiatives and programs that accelerate the adoption of AI and analytics around the world. The domain of data-driven, personalized insights has been the heart of her work for decades, and as such, she offers us a unique perspective to the potentials and dangers of its use. Christine, you're on.
Great. So let me just make sure this works. All right. I'm here because I want us to think differently and talk differently about the risks of data. We addressed danger of risks, sorry. We addressed data security and privacy very well on this morning's panel and the protection of data. I can talk security and encryption all day long. I'm from IBM. I'm not representing IBM in as much as my own psychology background when I'm talking about data privacy here. So I'll be, thanks. I'll be emphasizing a little bit different aspect of data risk today. So first I'm going to begin with what's wrong with this picture. You should be reacting as if you're seeing poison ivy. This is like the big Mr. Yuck signal. There's a lot that's wrong here. Not just that ketchup does not exist or that there are French fries, but we've got 240,000 emoticons here, 2.4 million comments, and 30,000 shares on this seemingly innocuous. Thank you. Anomalous. Seemingly innocuous question. Very entertaining. Lots of people participate. What we talk about when we talk about the dangers of participating in this really has to do with bad actors and cyber criminals and your bank account and passwords and so on. And certainly we do really care about that data, and we want to make sure that that data is not exposed and that you're not giving away your passwords. If you say your first car or truck was at Ford, you're probably not giving away too much that's going to give away your password, but that's part of what we hear about. The thing that's really getting hacked when you participate in these things, thoughts, beliefs, and behavior. And so I think you were speaking a little bit about that, Pat, and I think there was a question in the back about misuse of information by terrorists and so on to kind of create that. So I'm going to draw a line. That's what I'm doing here with this presentation, is drawing a line between data and January 6th. So first of all, data actually is in itself is just amazing. There are wonderful use cases for it, but at first, historically, what is data? It's any connected device, any digital device, anything that we're interacting with in a digital way, whether it's a magical refrigerator or your bidet toilet. It doesn't matter. There's some data that's associated with that. Who collects the data? In the past, we really thought about telecom operators. We talked about cloud providers. And certainly, that is who collects the data. And how is the data sold? Historically, again, packets and packages. So if you wanted to do a data monetization thing, you'd package up the data and you'd ship it off via a secure FTP or to somebody else in the organization, and that's how the data would be shared. However, things are changing a little bit with 5G and Industry 4.0, and the types of data are much more expansive. And the ways that data are used are much more expansive. Who accesses the data? Developers of all types. So we know that the providers, whether they're cloud providers or telecom providers, are highly regulated. But when you talk about like the permissions that are being granted in those applications, those thousands of pages of permissions that are being negotiated at that moment, that's what we're talking about here. And not only that, but the way that we play and interact with data is different now that we're looking at cloudification, containerization. We're looking at virtualization of those different data platforms in such a way that you write once, deploy anywhere. We talk about it all the time, right? This expands our relationship to how we interact with data such that it's an everyone to every place kind of relationship, right? So now we're talking about all the different app developers having access to very easily, very seamlessly unified types of data. And this is what I mean by it's wonderful, because there are a lot of really cool things that we can do with data, and we do with data. I'm helping telecom operators all around the world do these types of use cases where they're looking at tourism. I can tell from the SIM card what country they're from, so I like to see that. Or, you know, you might want to see who's buying a house. You can kind of tell who's new to the area, where are they driving around, what neighborhoods. With banking, we're helping the unbanked in many Southeast Asian countries where they have mostly prepaid at a lot of unbanked folks. So if you can establish a credit history with your prepaid phone, you can probably qualify for credit and participate in the economy in that way. So in many ways, there are good things afoot that have to do with data. However, when we talk about what we can know about somebody personally, right, when it's not aggregated, we can know quite a lot. So certainly we know location, we know their social network, we know whether they're an influencer, we can kind of tell that. We can learn things about their travel patterns, their mood, their health, and so on. When we get linguistic data, we really get into it. And that's what this chart is here. This is the Big 5 personality indicator. There's some other charts here. We're just taking a look at what you've written on social media or what you've written where. And from that language that you use, we can tell motivations, needs, values, the type of personality that you have, things that might appeal to you, such that the same ad, or well, no, different ad for the same vacation can be placed. Here, I don't know if you can see it, this is an ad to go tour in Arizona. This appeals to somebody who's an individualist, who values adventure, right? Different ad, same destination. We're valuing family, we're valuing time together, and it's a very different type of conversation that we're having about the same product. Now, it has been used. We know that in 2016, Cambridge Analytica used this type of psycholinguistic insight to send very specific ads to specific people, and in such a way that the ad that went to you and the ad that went to me were so different that we weren't even having the same conversation anymore. You and I might talk later, and we might debate the election, but I'm talking about this, and you're talking about that, and we're not even gonna meet. So we know that it can be used to be influential. And here we say, but it can't see me naked, right? It kind of can. So this is a Google study. Are you giving me time? Oh, okay. This is a Google study where it is called A Billion Wicked Thoughts. This was a fantastic book that was written based on Google queries. Nobody was exposed. Nobody got, you know, their butt shown naked or was sent an ad for, you know, a Star Wars themed vibrator. But what they did do was they took a look at inquiries based on sex and predilections. And they wrote this fantastic book that was all about what kinds of things are we asking about when we ask Google, that we won't ask our doctor or our best friends, but we will have that interaction online. So I will point out, though, that there's a level of scrutiny, ethical scrutiny, involved in something like this. The people who did this study had to get ethical approval from their institutional review board in order to make this study. Somebody is giving an ethical check to this kind of research to make sure that it doesn't hurt people. And then at corporations, there are those guidelines, and there are compliance, and there's regulatory. But this is not the case when you're being harvested here. This is where we're giving away our information freely. And when we do, we're giving it away in a way that then inspires the public at large to have knee-jerk reactions to personalized ads. I've actually been really helped by personalized ads. I've been helped by some of those data points that put a Club Pilates near my neighborhood instead of somewhere else. I want that kind of personalization. I want those products. I want those capabilities. I want those organizations who are figuring out all the things that they are helpful with to be able to have that. But this is different. The smell I can't stand, by the way, is ketchup. So when we come back around. So what we're looking at here, smell I can't stand, it's mom's behaving badly. We've got 1.6 million comments, 24,000 shares. And it leads you to, this is mom's behaving badly. And what you see here is not so much for women, though it's attracting women to participate to a certain degree. You'll find a lot more as you scroll through. This is really kind of for men. Once you get a couple of these, then we're starting to talk about porn, and we're starting to talk about, women dependent on men, and we start to look at women in these derogatory ways. And when we take a look even closer at the page transparency, created June 1st, 2020, the manager location is Pakistan. What do they want with that in Pakistan? Or Sri Lanka. You're answering a fun little question, you're just participating, but Sri Lanka and the US and the organization that manages the page is Publication Hub. So in participating in these, you're basically signing up to be targeted. And I hope that people will talk about that and think about that and share that information with your families and your friends. This is the kind of stuff that we're worried about. Not what the telcos are doing, not personalized ads, not any of the well-meaning stuff. And then you're thinking, well, I think for myself. No, you don't. Here's a whole book. It's called How Fantasy Becomes Reality, written by Dr. Dill Shackelford. Sorry. And she talks about media impacts, whether it's video games, cartoons, television, movies. She talks about all the different types of biases that come about. And it's basically this. Because of the way that perception and cognition work, we have all of these shortcuts built in. And when we do that, we process that information using those shortcuts. It's how we're able to filter out information and move about the world and not be focused on every little thing. We would just be stuck. We have to know what's not important, what I understand, boom, boom, boom. And one of those things is called the attribution theory, right? This has to do with when we see a bit of information, about 2 weeks later, we don't remember where we got it from. And that's just general. That's just general population. You read something, you take in some information, unless you're really studying it, unless you're really making it your thing, you forget where you got it from. So they did this study. They bring in these people. So let's say I bring in this room. Is schizophrenia contagious? No, right? We all understand schizophrenia is not contagious. I'm going to show you an article that says that schizophrenia is contagious. You're going to read the article. Then you're going to take this test. I'm going to give you the survey again. Is schizophrenia contagious? No, that article's bunk, right? That article's bunk. And most people leaving before and after, they left with the exact same understanding of schizophrenia is not contagious, and they were told that the article was fake. 2 weeks later, they were not as convinced that schizophrenia was not contagious. They were uncertain 2 weeks later about how spready this mental illness was. And so that kind of insidious grab on our attention, where we are kind of brought gently into these rabbit holes, shown various types of information, targeted based on our personalities, our values, the things that we care about, is how the yoga moms phenomenon of the QAnon movement happened. These moms believed that children were being sold by cabals and went to fight about it, went to protect those children. What's that? Well, in a way, I will say they were seduced, Yeah. And we know that that's accentuated by the algorithms. So the little angry face comes up. We know that Facebook, just in January, said, yeah, well, if there was an angry face, we prioritized the promotion of that. So anything that was incendiary got more attention. So that brings us to where do we go from here? And that's why I'm here. I want to ask you, as technologists, as professionals, as people in your community who are involved, talk about it. When you promote media literacy, and we all do as parents and family members and people at the office, include data and AI literacy. Talk about the things that you're doing well. Tell us they're being transparent about how they're using data. Bravo, that's fantastic. And I think more and more, we need to talk about those stories, but we also need to talk about what can be seen and how it's seen and how it's used. Because right now, we're having this kind of knee-jerk, I want my privacy. You do and you don't. You like the products, you like the helpfulness that's generated by data, but what does it mean? What does it mean to expose your data? You're not being seen naked. Understand and be able to articulate the art and science of persuasion. So be able to understand that it's not just blind following, that there are ways in which our brain works that just simply prime us to be persuadable. Use your academic, professional credentials to call out acts of propaganda when you see them. That's what you can do within the business, but I don't know what else in terms of content monitoring we can do. And again, find the good and accentuate it, because there is a lot that's good out there, and there's a lot of control that's in place. There's a lot of concern. There are a lot of good actors who are doing good work, and I think we're here in this room. But the other bits, we have to really dig in. What are you really worried about? And it's not just personalized ads. Thanks.
Your timing is impeccable. And in fact, we picked up a couple of minutes here. So thank you so much, Christine. The whole idea of your research finding its way into practice should really help us inform our design decisions. So let us all thank Christine for. So let's see, let's pretend that it's a little earlier than it is. We are scheduled to begin a privacy panel after a 20-minute break at 11 o'clock. So why don't we split the difference here a little bit. Why don't we take a 10-minute break here in this room. The bathrooms, if you're not aware, are to the left and continue around. But please try and be back here no later than 10 minutes past 11 o'clock. I'll just say one final thing. For those of you who may not be aware, this is also being broadcast on Zoom. We have about 20 people who are remotely involved in this. And if you're not logged into Zoom on your phone or your computer while this is going on, you're missing some very interesting kinds of comments in the chat box. So I would commend you to sign on to the Zoom link simultaneously while you listen to what's here in the room, and you can see what's going on. So we're in recess till 10 minutes past 11. Please come back on